Wow. What a week. What a week it's been for the Bills, for the Bills Mafia, for the community as a whole. It hasn't even been a full week yet. But I guess if you want to look back into the middle of last week, it's pretty much been nothing but good news on the Damar Hamlin front, which is obviously encouraging for everybody I just mentioned, the community, the fans, the Bills themselves. Led up to the return to Highmark Stadium this past weekend, a game against the Patriots. We knew emotions were going to be high. We knew the adrenaline was going to be high. And if it wasn't high enough after the opening kickoff return for a touchdown by Nyheim Hines, I can't even describe the elation I felt. I felt like I had an out-of-body experience. It was so loud that I'm not sure I could hear anything. And people like to use the word deafening. Oh, it was so loud that it was deafening. I don't mean it like that. I mean it kind of like what I just said. I felt like I had an out-of-body experience, like I blacked out for a second. That it was so loud that I'm like, is this really happening? If you've seen the replay, which I'm sure you have by now, you can see me on it. And it took a lot of restraint. That much I can remember. It took a lot of restraint to not join in. If you know anything about where I am at the Bills games, what I do at the Bills games, you know that I had that opportunity. And it certainly took some restraint. But what a day. Again, wow. The Bills defeat the Patriots 35-23 due to the Chiefs win over the Raiders on Saturday night. The Chiefs clinch the 1 seed. The Bills settle in for the 2 seed, which means they won't play a true road game in the playoffs as long as they take care of business. They will have a home game this weekend against Miami. If they win that game, they will be at home guaranteed, no matter who the opponent is, next week in the divisional round. And then they still have an opportunity for a home game in the conference championship if Kansas City were to lose in the divisional round, but they know they don't have to go to Arrowhead. That much they know. The game will be played at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. So that's the news there. I didn't finish recapping the week, this great week we've had, so I want to get back to that for a second. So earlier in the week, we find out that Damar Hamlin is transferred from UC Medical to Buffalo General, where he spends maybe 24-ish hours before he's released home. Amazing. Just awesome news all around there. I really hope that he's able to attend the game on Sunday afternoon, the first playoff game. I know that he's not going to be the legend of the game, so to speak. That's going to be Fred Jackson, which is awesome because obviously he's one of the fan favorites as well. But you know how crazy that fan base will go if they see Damar Hamlin on the Jumbotron, on the field, anywhere. Maybe they're saving that. Maybe they're trying to save that for next week because they probably feel like they're going to play Cincinnati. If they win, I probably shouldn't assume they win. Maybe that's kind of tying in with the good news, so to speak. And I preface this with this statement. I hope Tua is okay. Of course I hope he's okay. That goes without saying. I'm saying it anyway. I don't want the man to suffer long term from the head injury. But you'd be lying to yourself if you didn't let it creep into your head the advantage that plays for the Bills. That Tua is not going to be playing, that he's been ruled out by the Dolphins, and that they are preparing to start Skylar Thompson, a 7th-round rookie, taking picks before Brock Purdy. I mean, that plays right into the hand of the Bills, of course. They're already playing a home game. Now they're getting a 3rd-string quarterback. Maybe there's some gamesmanship happening there with the Dolphins. Oh, we're preparing Skylar Thompson. Teddy Bridgewater, I suppose, could play. I know he has a broken pinky, and, if you ever try to grip and throw a football with a broken pinky, can't be easy to do. You'd really have to be able to rip it, as Mike McDaniel said in his press conference earlier this week. So I'm not sure. I know that there's no advantage, and when I say this, I mean because I feel like fans were like, surprised they announced it this early. Not really. I'm not really that surprised because you don't really gain an advantage by telling them it's not Tua. I mean, or did I say that wrong? You don't really gain an advantage by, concealing your hand, I suppose. If the Bills prepare all week for Tua and then Skylar Thompson goes out there, they're probably not going to be like, oh, fiddlesticks. Skylar Thompson's out there. What do we do now? That they're going to be like, oh, thanks. It was the same principle as when Josh Allen was injured with his elbow. The Bills weren't really telling the Vikings what they were doing, but the Vikings are just going to prepare for Josh Allen. And if Case Keenum goes out there, they're going to be like, oh, great. That's just, like I said, there's no advantage gained. Maybe there's a slight advantage gained if you tell them it's Skylar Thompson and Teddy Bridgewater goes out there. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater has played fine, I suppose, in the games that he's played for the Dolphins this year. They haven't really won any of the games that he's appeared in, with the exception of the Bills game, actually, in Week 3. He came out for one drive, maybe 2 drives, but he was 0 for 2 with a sack. So, I don't think his presence was or had anything to do with them winning that game. Anyway, more good news. That's some of the good news. The Bills are playing a third-string quarterback at home. Damar Hamlin could be there. That would be awesome. The more good news on the injury front is that Micah Hyde and Jamison Crowder have had their windows, their practice windows opened. So they could return to the team within 21 days. Now, that could be as late as the Super Bowl or never. They could just revert them back to IR. Or that could be as early as this week. Sean McDermott said that he doesn't expect either of them to play this week. He also said, never count Micah Hyde out. I think that was kind of just a broader generalization because when he first sustained the injury, it didn't seem like he was going to come back at all this year. And now it looks like he might be available as soon as next week if the Bills are to advance. So that's awesome. Anyway, I spent 7.5 minutes on good news. And we've talked a little bit about the Dolphins. I'm going to talk more about the Dolphins in a little bit. I do want to recap the Patriot game a little bit. I think that after the Nyheim Hines touchdown return, it was just like, yep, no chance they beat us. And they didn't. The Bills ended up winning by 12 points. I just thought it sort of seemed like, route incoming. Especially after they go up 7-0, they kick the ball back off to the Patriots. It's like incomplete, meaningless run, cloud of dust, and then a sack. It's like, we are going to throttle these guys. But the Patriots hung in there. Much credit deserved. They made some contested catches. A beautiful catch by Jacoby Myers for a touchdown. Devontae Parker had a couple of touchdowns. I swear Devontae Parker's only good games have come against the Bills in the past 3 years. That could be totally wrong. It just feels that way. He had 79 yards, 2 touchdowns on Sunday against the Bills, 2 really nice touchdown catches. Mac Jones wasn't terrible. He ended up throwing 3 picks, a tough underthrow to the corner, to the pylon there, and Trey White picked it off. It was nice to see him get back in the action because I've been told that he hasn't been the same. Trey hasn't been the same since, his injury, since coming back. What do you need to see for him to be the same? I feel like I've done this a lot today, but Trey is the same now that he has an interception. I don't know. I don't put it past a man who sustained a significant knee injury to need a couple weeks to get back into the swing of things. And then there is, this life-altering event that happens on the field in front of his eyes. And that could affect anybody. Could affect anybody differently. I went over that last week. But I'm not really concerned about Trey White's play on the field. I'm really not. So, like I said, that was good to see. There was a tipped interception, and then Mac really just trying to fit one in up the seam there in kind of double coverage. It does end up getting tipped, and Matt Milano picks it off in the end zone. I didn't think... Mac has had some really not good games against the Bills, obviously, or a couple of them. He's only been on, played 4 of them, but they have made life tough on him. I was kind of impressed by some of his throws. I mean, he went 26 of 40, 243, 3 touchdowns. He wasn't sacked after that opening drive sack, so he evaded pressure pretty well. And not that the Bills were necessarily applying it that well. It's kind of been a cause of concern since Von Miller was injured. But Mac Jones, just like, this is a weird reference, okay? I'm letting you know because I thought of it when I was watching some of his passes. There is a scene in Little Giants, the movie, which is a mid-90s movie. Bruce Smith is even in it. Emmitt Smith is in it. John Madden's in it. A couple cameos there. Really good movie that you should watch with the family. Or maybe you're familiar with it. But Junior, I believe, is the quarterback's name. There's this scene where he's throwing toilet paper into like a cart, and then later on in the movie, this kid is like imagining a roll of toilet paper coming at him, and it's just like this soft throw, and it transforms into the football, and he catches the football. But like, that's just how it looks to me. Mac just throws this really soft thing, like you're just catching this roll of toilet paper. I don't know. I probably spent way too much time on that. It's just an observation that I wanted to share with you. So thank you for putting up with it. And I wouldn't blame you if you turned the video off right here. Anyway, Bills did a pretty good job against the run. Damian Harris didn't really get too much going. Ramondre Stevenson only had 6 carries. He had 54 yards. So they had a couple of nice runs, but it's kind of weird because the game script wasn't too far off. I mean, the Patriots were up 17-14 in the third quarter, and then it was followed up by another Nyheim Hines kick return for a touchdown, which was just incredible. And then late in the third quarter, the Bills don't put the game away necessarily, but they go up by 11 with an Allen rollout to his right. John Brown, welcome back. First catch of the year, only catch of the year that will go down in the regular season, a 42-yard touchdown. It looked overthrown at first. Brown still has that speed, runs underneath it. Magnificent catch. But the Patriots fought back, got it back to within 1 score. And then Diggs, who had kind of gone invisible for the second half, or maybe the Bills just hadn't thrown it to him, Allen rolls out or steps out to his right from the right hash all the way, 62 air yards I read, on the money. Just a dime right into the breadbasket for Diggs. Bills go up by 12 points with just under 9 minutes to go, and you had to feel pretty good from there. So the Bills take care of business. They are a leg above the Patriots. You can stop worrying about the Belichick trauma that he's caused you as a Bills fan. The Bills are better than the Patriots. I'm not saying the Bills will sweep the Patriots every year. By no means am I saying that. I think the Patriots could improve enough. They still have some issues on the coaching staff, and they are addressing them already, in the first week of the offseason for them because they did not win, and Miami won, which effectively eliminated them. Had Miami even lost, they would have been eliminated anyway because the Steelers won against the Browns. So they're addressing their issues, and they could compete in the division. I mean, when they went 8-9 with their former defensive coordinator calling their offensive plays. So I'm not writing New England off totally, but for this year, rear view, front windshield, Miami Dolphins. We've already gone over the quarterback situation. That's certainly going to impact the effectiveness of Tyreek Hill, who in the last 2 games without Tua has 6 catches for 78 yards. That's 2 games. He usually does that in a half sometimes. Jalen Waddle, same story, 8 catches for 96 yards. That's, a regular game for him. That's what they've done in 2 games with Skylar Thompson. The game against the Jets that the Dolphins were able to clinch the playoffs in, I didn't watch it, obviously. I was at the Bills game. It was, just by looking at it, the highlights, here I am doing this again, highlights, terrible. It had to be as bad as it looks, as it sounds, as it reads. It had to be that bad. The Dolphins were fortunate enough to get into field goal range near the end of the game because they would have been facing like a 3rd and 7 or something on their own side of the field, but there was a horse collar tackle penalty by Quinnen Williams that put them into Jets territory, and they got a couple more yards, and they were able to kick the field goal and win 11-6, essentially 9-6. A game of all field goals. The Jets, like I said, are not pushovers anymore. They're becoming a very good team on defense. And the Dolphins certainly aren't bad on defense, but when you're playing Joe Flacco in 2023, I mean, I'm certainly not going to look at that as, as good research, a good data point, I suppose. Like, yeah, okay, wow, you allowed 6 points at home to Joe Flacco. It's 2023. Somebody's still playing Joe Flacco at quarterback. End of story. So the Dolphins are just the definition of like limping into the playoffs because they have a ton of injuries. Like I said, we went over the quarterback. They are facing injuries to 3 linemen. Terran Armstead doesn't look like he's going to play. Liam Eichenberg looks super questionable at best. Brandon Shell. These are 3 guys that started for them this past week against the Jets, and now they might be down all of them. Actually, no, I don't think Armstead did, but Shell and Eichenberg did. And Armstead is like the franchise tackle, and he's had a really rough year with multitude of injuries. It's just not been ideal for them at that position. So they're going to be down linemen. They're down to their 3rd-string quarterback. Bradley Chubb's a little bit banged up. It does look like he's going to return to the lineup. He had some really limited snaps, I believe, against the Jets, but I think he's going to play. It's the playoffs. He's a veteran. He'll be out there. I'm pretty confident that he'll be out there. What this boils down to me, is like, obviously the Bills are getting healthier. They've been relatively healthy, to be honest with you. They have no major injuries. In fact, it looks like Micah Hyde and Jamison Crowder are on their way back. That probably won't affect this game at all. But the Bills are on the way up, and the Dolphins are kind of, like I said, limping in. They're just barely getting across the finish line. It's not to say the Bills should take them lightly, of course. But this is an uphill battle. I mean, the spread is 13. The Bills are favored by 13 points in a playoff game. That is, from what I understand, the biggest spread in the history of the NFL's wildcard round. So I expect the Bills to take care of business. I just don't puke all over yourselves. That's the plan. You're better. They have talented players, sure. They can't really get them the ball as much. Oh, Raheem Mostert. I'm looking at it right now. Raheem Mostert, too, has a broken thumb, had to have surgery. Doesn't look like he's going to play. So they're going to be down to Jeff Wilson, who I don't think is a bad player, but Jeff Wilson and Salvin Ahmed at running back. Maybe they'll even bring Myles Gaskin back. Remember him? That was a fun fantasy pick in 2020 or 2021. Alec Ingold, I think their go-to fullback there. They love him. He's a fan favorite. I believe he's even injured as well. So they're in tough. To put it quite simply, they're in tough. The Bills almost beat them in week 3 with Tua. Should have beat them. The Bills have put up like 950 yards of offense against the Dolphins in 2 games. I know that it was a last-second field goal that they beat them with a couple of weeks ago in mid-December. Again, that was with Tua. I just can't see Skylar Thompson. Maybe Bridgewater comes in and gives them a glimmer of hope. I think they have no shot with Skylar Thompson. I think it's tough to even like get on a plane and fly to Buffalo with knowing that he's playing. I feel tough for the fan base that is inevitably going to watch it. It's not easy to blow teams out in the NFL. It really isn't. But 13 at home, I think that's about right. I'm going to pick the Bills to beat the Dolphins 30-13. I think that feels right. I'm so excited to go. Look at this. Usually I move my clothes off. I have clothes up here even. I'll move them off. Like, oh, time to record your video, Greg. You better move your clothes off. These are the clothes I'm wearing for Sunday. That's how excited I am. I cannot wait. I left my clothes out. They're already out for the weekend. And I hope we get another game next weekend. Whether it's Cincinnati or LA or Jacksonville, I don't care. I just want another one. Guys, thank you for coming this far in the video. Thank you for your support all season and all 10, 12, 13 years, however long I've been doing this. Hit me up on Twitter. My Twitter handle and YouTube username are the same. Enjoy your weekend. See you at the stadium. As always, above all else, go Bills.